Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to take a look at Rallis India.
A leading player in the Indian agricultural inputs industry,
Exactly.
and part of the Tata Group as well.
Oh yeah, if it's Tata, it's got to be big.
The name, to be sure.
So we've got a bunch of reports about their recent performance.
You got their Q3 results,
Mm-hmm.
9 months ending December 31st, 2024.
Oh, we do.
Very, very fresh data,
Fresh off the press.
investor presentations, all sorts of goodies.
Yeah, so what kind of jumped out at you when you first saw all this?
Yeah. The first thing that really catches the eye
Yeah.
is the Q3 revenue dip.
Oh.
It came in at 522 crores,
Okay.
which is down 13%
Oof. 13%.
year on year.
That's a lot.
That's substantial.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the profit after tax,
Okay.
their PATT for the quarter
Mm-hmm.
landed at euro 11 crores.
All right. So not the best quarter, it sounds like.
Not at first glance.
Right. But how about for the 9 months? How do they do for the whole 9 months?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. For the first 9 months of their fiscal year, revenue is pretty flat
Hmm.
compared to last year.
So that Q3 dip really is a standout then.
It is. It really does.
Something must have happened in Q3.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that EBITDA
Yeah.
and PAT for the 9 months are both down
Okay.
compared to the previous year.
So there are challenges, but maybe they're not totally off track for the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a complete disaster,
Right.
but some challenges for sure.
Any clues from Rallis about what's going on?
Well, the company's managing director
Yeah.
pointed to a couple of things.
Okay.
Intense competition in the domestic market
Makes sense.
and some challenges in their export business.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of a puzzle here.
Yeah.
Generally flat for the 9 months, but then this big drop in Q3.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's dig in.
let's try and figure out what's going on.
Where should we start?
Well, they're a crop care company at heart, right?
Yeah, crop care is really their bread and butter.
So let's start there. What happened with crop care in Q3?
Okay, so crop care in Q3 saw a 13% revenue drop.
Wow, so mirroring the overall trend.
Yeah, mirroring the overall trend, unfortunately.
Okay.
But here's the interesting thing.
Yeah,
Domestic sales volumes actually increased
really.
by 2.5%.
But if they sold more product, how can the revenue be down?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It means there are a couple of things going on.
Okay.
First, there was a 4.5% drop in prices in the domestic market.
Ah, so even though they're selling more, they're making less money per unit.
Exactly.
What about their export market?
Right.
You mentioned that was having some issues too.
Yeah, the export market is a little bit tougher.
Okay.
Export volumes plunged by 34%
Wow.
due to weak demand.
Ouch.
And on top of that,
Yeah.
they also had a 4% price drop in that market.
Double whammy.
Double whammy.
Lower volumes and lower prices.
Sounds like-
So that really explains the Q3 drop. But how is their 9-month revenue for crop care up?
Well, it seems like they had a really strong start to the year.
Okay.
And that was enough to kind of balance out that Q3 decline.
Right.
There are also some bright spots within crop care.
Oh.
For example, their herbicides category has grown by 18%
Over the 9 months?
over the 9 months.
Okay, so some positives.
Yeah, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Now, Rallis isn't just crop care.
No,
They also have a seed business.
they do.
What's going on over there?
Well, Q3 is a small quarter for seeds, generally.
Okay.
And their revenue was down 7%
Okay.
year on year.
Right.
Seems to be driven by lower demand in the hybrid mustard market.
So another area where demand is impacting things. But is there anything positive to report from the seed business?
Well, actually, despite that revenue drop, their EBITDA for seeds actually improved in Q3.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Well, it's because they've done a really good job managing their costs.
So they're being careful with their spending?
Absolutely making every rupee count.
And if we look at the 9-month figures for seeds,
Yeah.
how are they doing?
Revenue was still slightly higher than last year.
So despite that Q3 dip, the seeds business is holding steady.
Yeah, seems to be.
Okay, so we've really just been focused on the numbers so far.
We have.
I'm kind of curious about what Rallis is doing beyond the financials.
Yeah.
Are there any strategic initiatives they're pursuing that stand out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. They're not just sitting back.
Okay.
They're actively pursuing a number of initiatives.
Okay.
One area they're focusing on is portfolio expansion.
Makes sense.
particularly in those high-growth crop protection segments.
So they're really doubling down on what they do best.
Exactly.
Going after those markets with the most potential.
Yeah.
What else are they doing to stay competitive?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh.
They're making big investments in what they call biologicals
Okay.
and specialty solutions.
So things like eco-friendly fertilizer.
Biopesticides, that kind of thing.
Tapping into that growing demand for sustainable farming.
Absolutely.
Smart move.
It's a growing market.
Yeah, consumers really care about where their food is coming from now.
They do.
Now it's produced.
Traceability is becoming increasingly important.
And they're not stopping there, are they?
No, they're not.
Tell me about some of the other commitments they've made.
Well, they've made some big commitments to sustainability overall.
Okay.
They're aiming for a 30% reduction in their carbon footprint by 2030.
Wow.
And they want to achieve zero landfill waste.
Those are ambitious goals.
They are.
How are they planning to achieve all this?
Well, one thing they're doing is they're planning to double their use of renewable energy by 2025.
That's great.
All of this is part of a larger Tata Group initiative called Project Alangana.
Okay.
So it's clear they're really serious about this.
Yeah, it seems like they're really weaving sustainability into their core business strategy.
Yeah, it's not just lip service.
But are they just focused on the environmental side of things?
That's a good question.
Or are they also thinking about social aspects?
Well, they're also actively engaged in community support activities.
Oh, tell me more about that.
They have a couple of programs. One is called RUBY,
Okay.
and the other is TARA.
What kind of work are they doing in those programs?
Well, RUBY focuses on education,
Okay.
and they've got a few different things going on there.
Yeah.
They have a math intervention program for students.
Okay.
They have a special children's intervention program,
Okay.
and they also provide some support for primary schools.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a really great program.
What about Tara?
So TARA is all about skill development and livelihood support.
Ah, okay.
So they provide industrial training,
Mm-hmm.
and they also provide toolkits to help people set up micro businesses.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, things like tailoring or craft making.
Oh, wow.
They also support women to set up stalls to sell their products.
It's nice to see them really trying to empower those communities.
Yeah, it is.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
What does all this mean for our listener?
Well, I think the big takeaway here is that Rallis is navigating some real challenges,
Yeah.
especially in their export business.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not sitting back and waiting for things to improve.
Right.
They're actively investing in future-focused areas,
Yeah.
like those biologicals and specialty solutions.
Right.
And they're really serious about their sustainability initiatives.
Yeah.
So while some investors might be a little bit concerned
Yeah.
about their recent performance,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
They're making strategic moves
Yeah.
that could pay off big time down the road.
Now, as we wrap up part 1 of this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one question you think our listeners should be pondering?
I think the big question is, will these initiatives be enough to boost their profitability in the long run?
That's a great question.
It is a big question.
And something we'll definitely explore further as we dig deeper into Rallis India.
In part 2 of our deep dive.
Make sure to join us for that.
Yeah, don't miss it.
Okay, we're back for part 2 of our Rallis India deep dive.
Part 2.
Last time we saw they're facing some headwinds.
Especially exports.
Yeah.
But they're also making some strategic bets.
Mm-hmm. On sustainability and new product lines.
Exactly. It's a really interesting situation.
Yeah, a lot going on.
A lot of moving parts.
So to understand if they're really on the right track,
Yeah.
I think we need to dig a little deeper into those financials.
Let's do it.
We talked about EBITDA and PAT being down.
For the quarter and for the 9 months.
Yeah, what's really driving that?
Well, their investor presentation breaks it down really nicely by business segment.
Oh, perfect.
So let's stick with crop care for now.
Okay.
What stood out to you there?
Well, just looking at Q3, their crop care revenue was 492 crores.
Okay.
A 13% drop year over year.
Yeah.
And their EBITDA dropped even more.
By 22%.
22%, those are big hits.
Yeah, big hits.
And as we talked about earlier, their struggles in that export market are a big part of that.
Yeah, those export troubles are really hurting.
Mm-hmm. Export revenue plummeted 38%.
A combination of lower sales volume
Yeah.
and that pricing pressure we talked about.
Double whammy.
Double whammy.
What about their domestic crop care sales, though?
There's some good news there.
Okay.
Domestic crop care sales volume actually increased
Really?
by 2.5% in Q3.
Okay, so they're selling more product.
Yeah.
But we saw that overall revenue was still down.
Yeah, that's because of that 4.5% drop in prices.
That pricing pressure is really squeezing their margins.
It is, yeah. Their EBITDA margin for crop care in Q3 was 15%.
Okay.
Compared to 22% in the same period last year.
Oof.
So a pretty significant difference.
Yeah. Okay, so those export troubles
Yeah.
and domestic pricing pressure are really putting a dent in their profitability.
They are.
Now, what about the seed business?
Yeah.
Are they feeling the same margin squeeze?
Well, the seed business is a bit of a different story. While their Q3 revenue for seeds was down 7%, their EBITDA actually improved.
It improved?
Yeah, by 11% year over year.
How is that possible?
Well, it's all about cost management.
Oh.
Even if your revenue drops, you can still improve your EBITDA by being really efficient with your spending.
So they're basically making sure every rupee counts.
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing a few things to achieve that.
Okay, like what?
Well, they mentioned an improved gross margin.
Okay.
Meaning they're making more profit on each unit sold.
Okay.
And they've also implemented some very effective cost management practices.
So being proactive.
Very proactive.
Finding ways to be more efficient.
Absolutely.
Even in a tough market.
Got to do what you got to do.
So, we've talked a lot about the numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the people side of Rallis.
Oh, yeah?
We touched on their sustainability initiatives and their community engagement.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about what they're doing there?
Sure. Well, their commitment to sustainability and community engagement goes beyond just words. They have this really comprehensive program called RUBY.
RUBY.
Yeah, it stands for Rallis Ujjwal Bhavishya Yojana.
Okay.
Which translates to Rallis Bright Future Program.
Oh, wow.
And it's really all about making a difference in rural communities.
What kind of things are they doing with this program?
Well, they've got a wide range of programs. There's a math intervention program for students.
Okay.
They have a special children's intervention program.
Wow.
And they also provide support for primary schools.
That's fantastic.
And they're also working on improving sanitation and hygiene in rural areas.
It seems like they're really tackling some important issues.
Yeah, they are.
Making a real difference in these communities.
They're definitely trying to make a positive impact.
What about their skill development programs?
Yeah, so that's their other program called TARA. And it's all about skill development and livelihood support.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
I did, and they do some really cool things.
Like what?
Well, they organize industrial visits for trainees. They provide toolkits to help people set up micro businesses. Things like tailoring or craft making.
Oh, wow.
And they even help women set up stalls to sell their products.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very hands-on support.
It's really nice to see a company going the extra mile.
It is.
Not just focused on their bottom line.
No.
But really trying to empower these communities.
About giving back.
Now, as we get ready to wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to chew on.
Right.
We've seen that Rallis is facing some real challenges.
Yeah.
But they're also taking steps to address them.
Taking action.
Yeah, and investing in the future.
Investing in the future.
What's the one key takeaway?
Well, I think the main takeaway here is that Rallis is at a crossroads.
Okay.
They've got these headwinds.
Yeah.
But they're also making some really smart moves.
Right.
The decisions they make right now are going to be really important.
Absolutely.
For their future success.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, well.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Rallis India.
The final part.
We've covered a lot.
We have their financials, their challenges, their new investments.
Yeah, and even their sustainability programs.
Yeah, a lot of ground covered.
But I think we're finally ready to tackle the big question.
The big one.
What does the future hold for Rallis?
What does the future hold?
They're at a crossroads.
It seems so.
So what are the things that are going to make or break them going forward?
Well, one really crucial factor is going to be how they handle that export market.
They're really up against it there, right?
Yeah. Tough competition, weak demand in some key markets.
They need to find a way to stand out.
Yeah. They got to find a way to differentiate themselves.
Now, their investor presentation mentioned they're trying to grow their custom synthesis manufacturing business.
Yeah, essentially producing crop protection products for other companies.
So they'd be like a supplier to other companies in the industry.
Yeah, kind of like a white label manufacturer.
Could that be a winning strategy?
I think it has potential.
Yeah.
It lets them leverage their expertise
and
their manufacturing capabilities to generate revenue
Okay.
from those big global players.
So diversify those revenue streams.
Exactly. Become less reliant on their own branded products.
Makes sense, especially given those headwinds.
It does.
What about those investments in biologicals and specialty solutions?
Yeah.
I think those will pay off long term.
I think it's a smart move.
Okay.
The demand for sustainable and eco-friendly agricultural products is only going to grow.
That's what we're seeing, right? Consumers want transparency.
Absolutely.
They want to know where their food's coming from, how it's produced.
Yeah, it's all about traceability and sustainability.
And Rallis's focus on regenerative agriculture really aligns with that.
It does.
Plus, their commitment to reducing their carbon footprint
Yeah.
and eliminating landfill waste.
All good things.
It really strengthens their image
Yeah, makes them look good.
as a responsible company.
Consumers appreciate that.
And they're not just talking about it.
No, they're taking action.
Through those community programs.
RUBY and TARA.
Yeah, it's really a holistic approach to sustainability.
It is. They're looking at the whole picture.
You know, another thing that caught my eye was their use of technology.
Oh, yeah.
They're using digital platforms.
Yeah, to connect with farmers, promote their products.
And gather data.
Data is so important these days.
It is.
Got to use it to your advantage.
I think that's a really smart move for Rallis.
It is. The agricultural industry is becoming increasingly data-driven.
So it seems like Rallis is facing challenges, but they're also grabbing hold of some really exciting opportunities.
They're not shying away from the challenges.
Investing in key growth areas, focusing on sustainability.
Yeah, they're really trying to position themselves for success.
It'll be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
It would.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure.
To our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of Rallis India.
Yeah, and the agricultural industry in general.
It's a complex industry.
It is, but a fascinating one.
Well, that's all for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
Join us next time for another deep dive into the world of business and finance.